The greatest mistake isn't losing the game, it's never realizing you were the king all along. Most people live like pawns, reacting, obeying, sacrificing their peace for applause and their values for approval. But here's the brutal truth. The game you're playing isn't fair, and the board isn't what it seems. You're not supposed to just move. You're supposed to rule. If you feel like you're constantly in survival mode, burnt out, distracted, manipulated by opinions, lost in decisions, it's because you've forgotten what you were born to protect, your inner kingdom. And the reason most people fail isn't weakness, it's disorientation. This video isn't about becoming aggressive, it's about becoming unshakable. Not about looking powerful, but thinking with power. Not about control, but about purpose. By the end of this video, you'll learn 7 brutal truths that most people never face. You'll discover how to build psychological clarity, emotional discipline, and spiritual strength. You'll understand how to act like a king, not for domination, but for sovereignty. Let's begin. 1. Stop moving without meaning. People often mistake activity for advancement. In a culture obsessed with movement, stillness looks like failure. But movement without direction is just noise. That noise becomes your life soundtrack if you don't pause to ask, where am I really going? The king on a chessboard doesn't waste moves. He advances only when the moment demands it. Yet most people live as if sprinting guarantees progress. They run to stay relevant, to be seen, to avoid silence. But the cost of constant movement is purpose. When you're constantly reacting, you're not deciding. You become the effect, not the cause. And the deeper problem is this. Without purpose, motion becomes your identity. You feel lost the moment you stop. But the king doesn't run. He watches, he calculates, he waits until his move shapes the entire board. True mastery begins when you understand that waiting is not stagnation. It's restraint, it's self-respect. Constant action is often a mask for internal insecurity, a fear of facing what arises when you're still. But stillness isn't empty. It's where intention is born. If you can sit still with discomfort, you've already mastered what most avoid. Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. To move with meaning, you first must be still enough to hear your inner compass. Sometimes we fear the pause because it exposes us to doubt. We associate stillness with laziness, or worse, failure. But a king who rushes into every battle is quickly dethroned. Those who wait, who prepare, who survey, hold the power others waste. You must ask yourself, is your next move a reaction or a decision? Have you considered the consequences, or are you just trying to escape discomfort? Many movements are disguised escapes, and many escapes are dressed as progress. To move without meaning is to wander, but a king does not wander. He advances, with precision, with poise, with a vision few can comprehend. And when he does move, the board shifts around him. A rushed decision isn't power, it's panic in disguise. 2. Your value isn't measured by applause. Recognition is tempting. It feels like proof. But often it's just noise dressed as validation. And when your self-worth becomes dependent on others clapping, you're already enslaved to their rhythm. Applause is not affirmation. It's attention. And attention can be sold to the highest bidder. Ask yourself, if no one saw your efforts, would they still matter? That answer reveals whether your path is yours or if you're living for a spotlight. A king doesn't need a stage. His presence commands attention, even in silence. The stronger your sense of self, the less you need others to confirm it. The moment you detach from applause, you begin to act, not perform. When you tie your worth to performance, your peace becomes fragile. One criticism and your identity shakes. But when you're rooted internally, praise becomes optional, not essential. To be admired is a moment. To be grounded is a lifetime. The crowd is fickle. Today they raise you. Tomorrow they replace you. But your identity should never be leased to their applause. Ask yourself who you become when no one is watching. That version of you, unfiltered, undistracted, unmeasured, is the truth. And truth doesn't need a cheer. It needs clarity. Attention is addictive, but like any drug, it demands more and gives less. You begin to perform roles you hate just to hear a sound that barely touches your soul. That applause, once sweet, becomes a cage, detached to rise. Let them cheer or not. You move because it's right, not because it's recognized. A king is not moved by opinion, but by mission. But there's another layer most overlook. Applause can disguise misalignment. Just because something is praised doesn't mean it aligns with your truth. You can be applauded for a role that slowly rots your core. And few things are more dangerous than succeeding at what doesn't serve you. So the challenge isn't just detachment from praise, it's being willing to walk away from it when it pulls you off course. It's being able to tell the difference between admiration and alignment. The former feeds the ego, the latter feeds the soul. Silence for many is terrifying, because in silence you meet yourself. But that's exactly where your real voice is hiding. And when you find it, you stop needing validation. You become validation. If applause defines you, silence will destroy you. 3. Build the inner castle. Before battling outside, before a king commands a kingdom, he must govern himself. Yet most rush into external battles without securing their internal base, and then wonder why they collapse when pressure mounts. Your outer life mirrors your inner state. An unsettled mind builds unstable alliances, makes desperate moves, and misjudges threats. Without peace within, conflict outside becomes unbearable. The strongest walls are made of insight, not arrogance. The deeper your self-awareness, the fewer battles you need to fight. You stop being baited by distractions. You respond, not react. An unguarded heart welcomes manipulation, but when you've laid every brick of your inner castle through discipline and clarity, your decisions reflect power, not panic. When your inner world is weak, even small problems feel enormous. But when your inner castle is fortified, even storms feel manageable. That foundation isn't built in noise, it's laid in reflection, truth, and courage. You can't lead others if you can't lead your own mind. The war outside is a mirror of the war within, and every compromise you make internally becomes a crack in your external defenses. Invest time not just in skills, but in self-respect. Not just in tactics, but in truth. Because your capacity to act with precision depends on your internal alignment. No general wins wars with chaos in the tent. Building your inner castle means saying no more often. It means walking away from the loud, the shallow, the easy. It means anchoring your worth in something unshakable. Because only then can you lead without collapsing under the weight. No fortress can stand if the ruler within is at war with himself. 4. Clarity is the ultimate weapon. In a world flooded with distractions, clarity isn't just power, it's survival. Every day, people are pulled in every direction, responding to noise rather than navigating with vision. Most aren't leading their lives, they're being led by whatever is loudest. But clarity acts like a shield against manipulation. When you know what matters, everything else loses its grip. The world's chaos is designed to confuse you, to wear you down, to scatter your thoughts, so you chase everything and find nothing. The man with clarity moves slower, but hits harder. He speaks less, but each word lands with intent. He's not moved by panic or popularity. His power lies in his discipline, the discipline to ignore what doesn't serve him. Clarity means knowing not only what you want, but also what you'll walk away from. And it's not born from comfort, it's forged in uncertainty. You don't become clear when life is easy. You become clear when everything is tested, and you choose your values over the chaos. Without clarity, you become reactive. You copy others, borrow goals, inherit expectations that were never yours. You end up building a life that looks good to everyone but feels empty to you. That's the danger of a blurry path. It wastes your energy in all directions. True clarity simplifies. It doesn't make the path easier, it makes it visible. You'll still face storms, but you'll know why you're walking. You'll still be challenged, but you'll know what you won't compromise. Don't mistake loudness for conviction. The most grounded people often speak the softest. They don't need volume to command respect. They live with alignment. You can feel when someone knows who they are. It disarms confusion. It intimidates manipulation. When you lack clarity, every obstacle becomes a threat. But when you have it, every threat becomes a test of resolve. And that shift is everything. Clarity isn't arrogance. It's choosing to see when others choose to run. 5. Don't betray yourself for belonging. Belonging is one of the deepest human desires, but too often people betray their truth to earn it. They change to fit in. They shrink to avoid judgment. They wear masks until they forget who they were without them. But fitting in isn't the same as being accepted, and if your presence in a room depends on you abandoning yourself, that room was never yours to begin with. A king doesn't blend in. He isn't defined by the crowd. He defines his space by how he shows up. He's not loud, but unmistakable. Because he knows the cost of self-abandonment is too high for short-term approval. When you deny your intuition, silence your opinions, or pretend to be who you're not just to be liked, you're not surviving. You're slowly disappearing. And over time, that kind of belonging feels more like a prison than a community. True power comes when you stop seeking permission to be yourself. When you realize that the people who matter will never ask you to water yourself down. The more you own who you are, the more you repel what isn't aligned. And that's a good thing. It's not your job to be liked by everyone. It's your job to respect yourself enough to stand alone if needed. Because the man who can stand alone is the one others follow. Let them misunderstand you. Let them question you. If you're loyal to your truth, their confusion doesn't matter. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing acceptance is the moment you start attracting real respect. But beware, sometimes you'll belong to places that once fit but no longer do. Growth often demands exit. Loyalty to self means recognizing when a room you fought to enter no longer reflects who you've become. Don't fear walking out, fear shrinking to stay in. When your identity is intact, you realize that belonging starts within. No external tribe can substitute the integrity of inner alignment. When you're right with yourself, loneliness becomes solitude, and solitude becomes strength. A crown gained through self-betrayal becomes a chain. 6. Protect what the eye can't see. The most valuable parts of you aren't visible. You can lose money and regain it, lose a job and find another. But lose your peace, and you'll find yourself navigating life with a broken compass. The modern world sells the illusion that success is external. Titles, numbers, accolades. But none of it matters if your spirit is cracked. What sustains you in private is what empowers you in public. Mental health, emotional balance, your core principles, these are your invisible assets, and like any asset, they need protection. Not once, not when things fall apart, daily, proactively. A kingdom isn't just protected by walls, it's protected by what those walls stand for. When you abandon your values, your defenses fall quietly. When you ignore your exhaustion, your strength turns brittle. When you numb your truth, your voice starts to disappear. True strength is gentle. It's the ability to say no, to pause, to breathe, to leave. It's in the restraint of not overextending and in the wisdom to rest before you collapse. The king knows that what's invisible shapes what's visible. He doesn't trade inner peace for outer validation. He doesn't sacrifice clarity for appearance. Because he knows the world can praise him while he crumbles, and that's not a risk worth taking. You are not weak for protecting your peace. You are strategic. You are sovereign. And when your inner world is intact, there's nothing the outer world can do to truly shake you. The discipline to protect what's unseen must become a lifestyle. It means taking your boundaries seriously even when others don't. It means honoring your energy even when it's inconvenient. And it means understanding that burnout isn't noble. It's betrayal in slow motion. Build inner reserves. Train your focus. Safeguard your mental terrain from invasion, because no matter how strong your outer kingdom appears, if the throne inside is cracked, collapse is only a matter of time. What you guard in silence becomes the force you wield in chaos. 7. Decide before the world decides for you. The most dangerous life isn't the one full of risk, it's the one without decisions. Because if you don't decide, someone else will. Every day you're being sold beliefs, habits, identities, and if you're not careful, you'll adopt them by default. You'll think you're choosing, but you're just echoing the loudest voice. A king decides. Not because he knows everything, but because he refuses to drift. He chooses his path, his limits, his standards, and he does it before chaos forces his hand. Indecision is rarely neutral. It creates space, and the world will fill that space with urgency, with fear, with pressure. Suddenly, you're living by deadlines you didn't set, dreams you didn't choose, and roles you don't even recognize. But when you make your own decisions, you reclaim your time, your energy, your soul. You stop outsourcing your power. You start choosing from alignment, not anxiety. Every decision is a vote for the life you want, even the small ones, especially the small ones, because those become your habits, and your habits become your identity. So ask yourself, where are you waiting when you should be choosing? What have you delayed that's quietly draining you? What compromises have you made not from wisdom, but from fear? It's never too late to reclaim your agency. But you have to stop waiting for clarity to come from outside. Decide to seek it. Decide what you stand for. Decide what you'll never trade, no matter the offer. Because once you make that decision, the game shifts. You're no longer playing by borrowed rules. You've written your own. And once you write your own rules, everything changes. You become unmoved by guilt tactics, immune to trends, focused on what's yours to build. That kind of clarity doesn't just change your path, it changes your posture. Decide early, decide loudly within yourself, even if you whisper to the world, because that inner certainty is what builds external sovereignty. Every master of their life started by choosing when no one else believed it was time to. The crown isn't given, it's claimed by decision, not by chance. This isn't about pretending you're untouchable. It's about realizing you don't have to play every game you're invited to. You don't need to shout to be respected. You don't need to dominate to be sovereign. Being king isn't about being above others. It's about being anchored in yourself. When your mind is calm, your purpose is clear, and your boundaries are strong, you don't need control because you already have command. This is the psychology of the king. Stillness over speed. Intention over reaction, protection over performance. Remember, the world respects the man who rules himself, when the inner game and the outer board aligns. Comment below. What part of your inner kingdom have you been neglecting? Send this video to someone who's lost in the noise. They need to remember who they are.